My husband's words still echoed in my ears. "That fat woman disgusts me," he had said, his tone sharp and cutting. The words felt like a slap, and although I had forced myself to act as if I hadn't heard, every inch of my being had cringed inwardly. It wasn't just the cruelty in his voice that shocked me. It was the sudden realization of how easily he had spoken them. As though those words, those judgments were simply normal thoughts in his head, words he felt comfortable voicing to me. We sat at dinner that night, the tension between us thick and undeniable. He was smiling, talking about his day, while I picked at my food, unable to focus on his words. My mind kept replaying that moment. How could someone who claimed to love me, someone I thought I knew so well, express such blatant disgust? Was I the same woman he saw now? The woman who sat across from him at the table, so unlike the radiant woman he once married? Or was I just another fat woman in his eyes? The night stretched on, and the usual hum of domestic life around us felt alien. I tried to return to normal, tried to laugh at the right moments, but his words kept haunting me. Could I even trust him anymore? The next morning, I woke up with a heavy weight pressing on my chest. The room felt colder than usual. He was already out of bed. I checked the clock. It was barely 6 a.m. I heard the shower running, the steady sound of water cascading over his body, washing away the remnants of sleep. I felt a pang of unease, something deeper than just the lingering discomfort from the previous night. It was as though the air had shifted in our home. I got up quietly, careful not to disturb the stillness, and slipped into the kitchen to make coffee. The silence was oppressive. Each sound I made, the clink of the coffee mug, the soft swish of the stirring spoon, seemed magnified in the quiet house. My hands shook slightly as I measured the coffee grounds. I wondered if he was thinking about what he had said. I wondered if it bothered him at all. But deep down, I knew it didn't. He had a tendency to say things without thinking, to lash out when he was stressed or upset. He had done it before, said things that cut deep, only to apologize later as if it were nothing more than a passing storm. And yet, this time felt different. It wasn't just a fleeting insult. It was a glimpse into something deeper, something darker. As I stood there, lost in thought, the shower stopped, and I heard the sound of the bathroom door opening. I quickly finished brewing the coffee and poured myself a cup, hoping it would settle my nerves. I needed to gather my thoughts, to understand what had changed. He emerged from the bathroom, his hair damp, his usual confident smile in place. But something in his eyes didn't quite match his expression. I couldn't place it. Maybe it was just me overthinking, or maybe there was something off about him too. "Morning," he said casually, pouring himself a cup of coffee. His voice was light, unaffected. I tried to return his smile, but it felt forced. "Morning," I replied, my voice softer than usual. He sat down at the kitchen table, his eyes briefly flicking to mine before turning away. The silence stretched between us, thick and uncomfortable. I couldn't stand it any longer. "Why did you say that yesterday?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly despite my best efforts to stay calm. He froze for a moment, his hand hovering over his coffee cup. I could see the muscles in his jaw tighten, the momentary flash of irritation in his eyes. He didn't answer right away, and for a second, I thought he might just dismiss me, act as though nothing had happened. But then he exhaled slowly, setting his cup down with more force than necessary. "Why does it matter?" he asked, his voice tight. "It's not like you didn't already know how I felt." The words stung more than I expected. "I thought we were past all that," I said, trying to keep my tone steady, but failing. "I thought you loved me." "I do love you," he snapped, his voice rising slightly. "But that doesn't mean I have to like everything about you." And frankly, sometimes I get frustrated with things I can't change. The room seemed to grow smaller. I wanted to lash out, to tell him exactly how his words had made me feel, how they had chipped away at something inside me that I couldn't quite name. But I held back. I couldn't make this about me. I had to understand him, to figure out what was really going on. You don't have to like everything about me, I said softly, my words careful, measured. But why make me feel like I'm the problem? He shifted in his seat, his expression hardening. It's not just about you, he said. It's about everything. You think I don't see how you've changed? How we've changed? But I don't have the luxury of pretending everything's okay all the time. I blinked, thrown off by his words. What do you mean? What's changed? He leaned back in his chair, his gaze becoming distant. I don't know. It's just, things aren't the way they used to be, and I don't know how to fix it. But I can't ignore how I feel anymore. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to tell him that it wasn't just about the physical changes, that it wasn't just about the weight or the way I looked. But I stayed quiet. I needed him to speak more, to reveal what was really going on inside his head. Before I could say anything, the doorbell rang, breaking the fragile silence. I jumped, startled by the unexpected sound. He looked at me as though unsure whether to answer it. I'll get it, I said, standing up quickly. I opened the door to find a delivery driver standing on the porch with a package. I signed for it absently, my mind still racing with thoughts of the conversation I had just had. As I turned back to the house, I noticed something odd, an unfamiliar car parked in our driveway. My pulse quickened. The car wasn't ours. In fact, I couldn't remember the last time I had seen it before. Was someone else here? Was he hiding something from me? I glanced at my husband, who had retreated to the living room. He didn't seem to notice my unease, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something was happening behind the scenes, and I was being kept in the dark. My heart began to race. I didn't want to confront him. Not yet. But I couldn't ignore the feeling gnawing at the back of my mind. The air in the house felt thick again, the weight of unsaid words pressing down on me. And then, as if on cue, he looked up from his phone. Hey, I have to go out for a bit, he said, casually. The words hit me like a punch. Go out? Where? Just some errands. You know, stuff for the house. But I didn't believe him. I had no reason not to, but something in the way he avoided my eyes told me he wasn't being entirely honest. Okay, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, though the suspicion was creeping up inside me. He stood up, grabbed his jacket, and walked toward the door. As he reached for the handle, I felt an impulse, something primal, urging me to stop him. Are you sure you're just going out for errands? I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. He paused for a moment, then turned around. For the first time in hours, his expression seemed to soften, as if he could sense the fear bubbling just below the surface. Of course, I'm sure. Why? He asked, his voice almost too calm. For a second I hesitated, but the questions burning in my chest demanded answers. Is there someone else? I asked quietly, my heart hammering in my chest. His eyes widened, and I could see the flash of panic in them before he quickly masked it with a forced laugh. Don't be ridiculous, he said, shaking his head. I just need to get out of here for a while, okay? Don't overthink it. But the doubt had already taken root, and I knew that this wasn't just about errands. Something was off. And as he closed the door behind him, I was left standing in the silence, wondering if I had truly known him at all.